Ta-da! Hi, everybody. Here we are we have a beautiful presentation right now with Diane, Annie, Mathias, Music as Medicine. And Annie is originally from the Michigan area, but she's down in California now. Palm Springs, is that more?
Palm Desert, yeah.
Palm Desert?
Yeah.
And we're in for, well, some beautiful vibrational sounds that are going to the music is going to soothe your soul, but the energy that comes through this is just going to calm you right down in so many ways. It really does have a healing presence. So when she says this music is medicine, get ready for a treat. So how did it all begin? How did you discover that music actually, in the sense, soothes the soul or is medicine?
Well, when I was little, the instrument of choice that I played was actually my mother's instrument of choice, an accordion. And that did not resonate with me at all. And I remember playing in a talent show and just feeling so uncomfortable and so not in my body, not in my being. And I was just a young child at the time. And so after the accordion episode, I played guitar a little bit, but I really didn't resonate with music except for rock and roll bands and all that, of course. But yes, of course. And, but what happened was I was out visiting in California years later, and I heard somebody playing the Native American style flute. Now, the Native American flute, that's the ones that are made by people who are actually Native Americans, but it's become a very popular instrument. So if you're playing one that is not actually made by a Native American, out of reverence to the Native Americans, I call it a Native American style. That's just honoring my Native American brothers and sisters. So I have both, of course. But I heard this flute and it just went through my soul. And even relaying that story, I just feel tears inside of me because it was like that flute found me. And I knew that I had to learn how to play it. Well, a couple years later, I had moved to California in 1987, following my husband's death, and I had 3 small little children. I moved to California in 1987, and eventually, over the years, a man who is a friend of mine started making native flutes, and he gave me one. And I learned how to play it, and it was just, there was something so amazing about, for me, I didn't have to read music. I began to play from my heart intuitively because I've always been an intuitive sensitive. And I began to the music, the sounds, the notes, they became, for me as a poet, they became words without words. They became liquid poetry in my experience. And it was just an amazing happening. And I also learned to play the didgeridoo, which I loved because as an earthwalker, I love the woods and I love the trees and I love the black soil, which I don't have here in the desert. And so the didgeridoo to me just brings all of that deep, low, grounded energy into my being. And I began to learn to play the drum, and I began to learn to make drums, and I made rattles out of gourds that grow in the desert. So there was a connection, not just with sound, but also the people who made these instruments. And I really believe that's important because in order to do healing work, the instruments I use are made by healers. And so the energy that goes into these instruments, to me, is really almost as important as the actual sound that comes out. And so by becoming a hollow reed, we are allowing all that energy to come through us. And I always tell people, I tell my flute students, the flute is not something to be controlled. It's not an instrument to be mastered. It's you let the flute teach you. Let the flute be your teacher. And it's an incredible situation. I heard somebody on your one of your broadcasts earlier talking about unlearning. And in playing music this way, that's one of the things that I really encourage people to do is unlearn their musical training, let go of that, become lost in the beauty of the sound. And seriously, it is entering into an altered state. It's entering into a whole other place. And it's just a phenomenal experience. And the deeper I go, oh my gosh, the more I just love it. the music and the sound is incredible. And so I use a number of different instruments. I have a couple with me here today. And but I wanted to show, if I may, this is an old grove redwood flute. It was actually came from my daughter's lands up in Santa Cruz. Years and years ago, there was an old grove of redwoods, and they were struck by lightning and they burned. Now, the heart of the redwood is the hardest part. So the people who lived on that property at the time used the heart for fence posts. Well, now the new grove has grown and there's humongous trees up there. We dug up underneath the poison ivy these old fence posts, and my friend made this beautiful flute for me. It has turquoise in it. It has some, you can see where the fire was on the block, where the nails were from the fence posts. There is also turquoise. And I use this flute. It's very low and soft and wise and old, just like the wood would be. And I use this in ceremony. And the vibration is incredible. Just to give you a little illustration.
Why what's the significance of the turquoise?
Because there were holes in the wood, we filled it in with turquoise. And I love the fact that it's just for me, it's such a metaphor, because in our lives, when we get places that are broken or places that have splintered off, to fill those places of our lives in with gems and that which is precious, isn't that amazing? I just love that. So that, and turquoise is a very healing gem also. So
Right.
that's the significance. Yeah.
Well, I just almost want to just be present to that for a moment, to think about the fact that what is considered a flaw, right, a hole, and that it's filled with a gem.
Yes.
So if everybody can just catch that and imagine that what you think you might be missing is actually the space where you're ready to receive the gem, you know, and you can probably, when she starts to play, think about that. That's the type of vibrational music that's going to soothe your soul, that moves you forward into a new space. I mean, you can see the joy. It exudes from you, this enthusiasm for everything there. So it obviously, just what it's done for you has a rippling effect, right? So the instruments might be made by healers, but then your joy continues.
That's right.
Ongoing.
That's right. And it's not, just because you pick up a flute or a rattle that I've made because I do healing, it's not going to magically cause all this. There has to be your own connection with source. You have to be connected with spirit. And really, it really is. It's about being the hollow reed. It's not being filled with my own agenda. It's not being filled with what I think should happen. It's allowing what is meant to come through to come through. One of the things, as long as we talk about filling our cracks with turquoise, one of the things that I have done with music is I taught for many years at a cancer center. And I created some programs. One was healing words for the bereaved. And one time I said, I talked about filling our cracks in with turquoise. And I brought in another flute that had turquoise in it. And I said, I'm going to play, and let's just think about the places in our life that maybe we see as flawed, but look at them now as having beautiful, precious stones in them. And it was amazing what comes out, because when we allow the music just to transform us and to move us into a different place, into a different mindset, to shift us, what is really the deep wisdom that wants to come out oftentimes is able to come up to the surface. And I taught at the same cancer center, and for the bereaved, I taught the native flute as a way to communicate, because the way that I live my life, the sound, the music is its own language. It's not a language of words, but it's a language that goes far beyond words. And I love, there was a time when a sweet lady came in, and this was in the cancer group, and she picked up her flute because I had been teaching them to play the flute, and she picked up her flute, and instead of talking, she just began to play. And then I picked up my flute and I played back. And the people who were watching, the rest of the class, was just watching this, and they said, they're going, oh, and I said, this is our language. And when we were done, this woman said to me, thank you so much. I didn't have my words. And so it allows us to speak beyond words. And in the same place, I was told, this was a few years ago. It's changed, I'm sure, by now, because, every year things begin to shift and change. But I was told I couldn't talk about God or spirit or source. I had to keep everything benign. So I thought, how do I work healing in the midst of a group of people who are, struggling with all of these things and not talk about spirit? So I began to teach them how to play flute prayers. And I taught them how to play from their heart these expressions of sound, this expression of spirit in their music. And we began to play flute prayers one for another. And so there were many people who began to do this, playing these flute prayers. And it didn't matter if they believed in God or not. It was, whatever their belief system was, they were able to lift up these flute prayers. And it was a powerful, powerful thing. And I've had people say to me, as they play flute prayers, I've had people call me and say, my flute is playing, but I don't know how to do what it's doing. Isn't that wonderful?
Yes,
but as we're the hollow reed, amazing things. And Jackie, I know you've experienced that in your life, but amazing things flow through us.
Oh, so much amazing. I just want you to know that Vanessa is like waving in the sense, I'm here. She's been waiting for you. So wanting to see you. So she's, we see you too, Vanessa.
Oh, I saw her yesterday with her dancing. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful.
I know. I just had this image of her dancing and you, I don't know if you've ever done like when you, the do, when they have the.
Yes.
Can you do that one? The, whatever that's called, like the
Eastern.
Yeah, the Eastern do.
Yeah.
That song.
I played it,
but I can't. It's not coming out at the moment. But I'm glad you get it because this.
I do.
Be the hollow reed.
And I played at drum circles and played that, and people have belly danced to it. So you are absolutely right on.
So I'm envisioning that's going to happen at this like sister circle that we're all going to get together, okay? And we're going to have some, dancing and music and playing, and we're going to have the Native American flute play its
wonderful
own music.
I'm there. Yes. And the didgeridoo is great for collaboration too. The didgeridoo is a very deep vibrational sound. To me, it's the earth rhythms. I love to go up to Joshua Tree National Park, which is a ways from me, but it's big, huge, massive rock. I love to go up there and play with the rocks and the trees and the desert lands because it's that vibration. And flutes and the didgeridoos, they all come in different keys. And so it just depends. And of course, the keys can relate to the chakras for that type of healing too. And I mean, Vanessa says, I love the didge too. And I love how you play it. Oh, well, this is going to be a fun time when we all get together. Now this is great. Oh, and Vanessa lives in California too. So we might just have to get together and play a little bit before that all happens,
There you go.
So, but this is more of a 101, I know, because we just don't have time to talk about it. I could talk for hours as I'm just blathering on, but this has just been one of my passions. And not only to be able to share for others and teach others, but also for myself. There's like with all of the instruments, oftentimes if I am troubled or I am trying to figure out an answer, I'll begin to play and then I'll play the answer. And I don't know if that makes sense, but there's a merging of when you look for truth. Yes. And you go beyond your head, you're playing from your heart. Mm-hmm. There are answers, and it comes from deep wisdom. And I think in our society today, we've lost, we have beautifully technically correct symphonies and all that type of thing, but we've lost that connection somewhat to the actual music, the actual sound. And in that is just incredible, amazing, miraculous even connections. And that's why, I think that music is a medicine because it does heal us and soothe us and reach down deep and help us to understand or help us to move past or even help us to express when we don't have our words.
Yes. That's quite incredible. I'm also reminded of my daughter, my youngest, when she was like, I think 5, and she sat down at the piano for the first time. It sounded, we had a friend, it was like a baby grand, and she just started to play, and it sounded almost like a beautiful piece of classical music.
Yes.
And I think almost, right? Because it was just almost there. Yes. And And I thought, oh, and my father, I remember him thinking, oh, future Beethoven or Bach, right? And so immediately we thought, get her into some music lessons. And that was the end of it. Because once they started to say, you know, this, we're going to teach you a note and we're going to teach you the basics, this music that was coming from inside her, just like you're saying, that space wasn't coming anymore because she was being channeled in a direction that was like your mom saying, here, play the accordion. That's it. Right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And with great respect for all the graduates of Juilliard and all of that, that's not what I'm saying. But how I use music is in a way of allowing it to come from the heart. And I know you can use it with, you know, with musical training and all that too. But for many of my clients, I've actually had to help them learn to unlearn that in order to let themselves go free.
And I think that's very key, to let them be free to follow their heart, because really the structure when you're just learning the music is pretty much up here.
Yes.
Beautiful pieces that they might play, but it is contained.
Yes.
You know, like I'm going to use the analogy of the accordion. It's contained like in this back and forth motion, where the flute just is in the breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
In that,
that's right.
Flowing with part of life.
And breath is life. I mean, I can play one note on the flute and it will come out 6 different ways according to how I breathe into it.
Really?
Yes, just like.
Wow.
Here's this is a B.
Okay.
And I wonder if I should, well, I won't stand up. It's one note.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
You can express in so many different ways, one note. Yeah. And it's all about what's coming out as our breathing and how much air is being pushed through or not pushed through. And that's why I love the native style flute, because it's a very basic, there's 6 holes, and this is a B, which is the crown chakra, but there's 6 holes, and it's not complicated. I don't teach reading music. There's tablature if you want to, but I don't teach reading music. I teach more of using it as a medicine, using the flute, or the didgeridoo.
Well, I think you need to, and if you're saying to teach it, right, to give me an instrument if I'm disconnected.
Yes.
Right? Just to coordinate the presence of blowing brings presence to my body and to my life force. So I would feel just by you handing someone a flute is almost creating this intentional healing.
Yes.
Because it's starting through you, right? Like and they're receiving. It's like they're receiving the gift of going, yes, I want to open for more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And then, people will develop their own style. They'll develop their own ways. Different people according to who they are. One night years ago, one of my loved ones was very, very sick. I woke up about 1:00 in the morning. I went out. The moon was beautiful. I live in the desert, so it was very bright. And I went out and I began to play a flute song. And I was just playing my sorrow, but then my prayer, and then it turned into hope. And I was able to move into a place of believing and knowing and all that. And then after about 45 minutes, I came inside and I wrote a poem. I actually wrote a song. It's called The Moon Watches Over You. And it was what was coming out in my flute song. But I didn't have words when I was playing it. I just was playing the notes. And so I later went on to create a one-of-a-kind book from that. But the music just changes us. It moves through us in a powerful, powerful way.
Yeah, well, essentially we are vibrational beings, right?
Yes, we are. Absolutely, we are.
So is let's say the crown chakra, is that like a higher note, and like the didgeridoo would correlate with the lower vibrational chakras? Does it work at all like that, or
not
is
necessarily? Like this is also a B flute, and this is also for the crown chakra, but it's a couple octaves lower. So, but it would also relate. Let's see if you can still see me. I just have a little picture on my screen here. So. It's a low B, but it's also the crown chakra. So it just depends on the octave. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it stretches my imagination to realize that, again, it's not about classifying one area. It's about the flowing and the freedom that needs to happen, and the music guides you to the healing.
That's right. And for instance, this is an F didgeridoo. An F is the heart chakra.
Okay.
The music for the heart chakra. Excuse me just a second here.
Isn't this exciting? This is so exciting. And yes, I'll be looking forward to that collaboration too.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's 120 degrees here today. My very big dog has been inside all day, and he was just coming up and kind of bugging me a little bit. It's too hot, really, to take him outside. I took him for a car ride in the air conditioned, but it's so hot. So I'm sorry for the interruption. But this is...
No, you got to take care of what you got to take care of.
And he's just my good buddy. So this is one of the didgeridoos I have. I have quite a few, actually. But this is made out of agave, which is grown and harvested here in the desert. And would you like me to play it just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay. And this is
a gift. Thank you.
This is vibrational. And oftentimes, I should tell you that oftentimes one of the ways that I use the didgeridoo as sound for healing is I will play it over a person. And the vibration will go to where it is needed. And we just call it digging somebody. But it's a powerful thing. And it's just, the vibration is so peaceful. And to me, it always feels like I'm being wrapped up in these wonderful arms of earth or something like that. So I would love to just play a little bit.
So when you say, hold on just a second, that you play it over someone, is that like if I happen to have been, someone was ill and they're lying down, do you actually put the didgeridoo so the sound is coming over them, or is that what you're saying by that?
Yes, if they're comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just like with crystal bowls, if I'm playing the crystal bowls, usually I will have, they'll be lying on the ground or on the couch or on a therapy table, whatever they're comfortable with. But sometimes I have certain bowls that I will just hold in my hand and I will go over their body above it. It won't touch them. They're not touched or anything, but just so the sound permeates, and I can kind of tell which areas of their body really need, especially that sound. And it touches them on a cellular level as well as, yes, we hear it with our ears, but it goes deeper than that. And because of that, it's really important that people feel safe. There's people who have never experienced that before, so I do just very gently, but that people feel safe. And a lot of times they will go into an altered state of relaxation. Sometimes they say, oh, I fell asleep, or I saw colors, or I this or I that, because, we kind of, our mind will click off and we'll just be able to enter into a place of peace.
That's beautiful. And I guess the music, when I was thinking about it, like some people will do like Reiki, for instance. So they're using their hands by putting the didgeridoo, that it's the vibration of the sound that is really dissipating the energetic field, the auric field, and transforming things. So yeah, that makes perfect sense Yeah,
it's just kind of a way of looking at it. I'm also a Reiki master, so I will use Reiki with the music. But I have a beautiful white desert sage plant in my backyard, and I will burn the sage. Now, if I go into a place where you can't have sage burning, the didgeridoo also does clearing in the same wonderful way. So, exactly what you're saying, you can kind of, use one instead of another.
Right. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So get ready for everybody. Here comes the didgeridoo. If you've never heard this is really moving.
it's so much fun to play. Now that also uses a circular breathing where you're breathing in and out at the same time. So that's really, I mean, talk about music for healing. They have actually done study and determined, Zurich, I think it was 2009, that playing the didgeridoo is good for the soft palate, and it's really good for people with sleep apnea. Who knew?
Yeah, I mean, I could see that there's just going to be so much more scientific evidence that's going to come out, pertaining to dance and music and song, because it's been around. I mean, these vibrations and this, they're just present. They're just joyfully present. And as we surrender to what's really truthful, science is just corroborating.
Yes.
What's true. I found it when you started to play, it was like I felt it come into the heart, and actually the energy sort of shifted right down through to my base of where I was sitting. So it was like all through here. I just felt this whole
wow. Yeah. Awesome. The vibration always goes where it's needed. And I hate to say, I mean, Vanessa did a little video on sitting all the time, and you've been sitting for hours. So your earth body probably needed just to be touched where you've been sitting for so long,
Yes, because although I get up and I sort of stretch for this. Most definitely, this has been an interesting experience. So, okay, so you've got the Native American flute.
Yes.
And then you have the Native American style. Is that what we call it?
You know what? They're both considered Native American flutes, but just out of respect, I have, I will say Native American style when it's not made by a Native American brother or sister.
Yeah. I want to demonstrate that respect, so we'll pass it on.
So yes, I have both of those, and I actually have about 40 flutes.
Only 40?
Yeah.
Those are just for the parties that you're having, or is it for different, each one has slightly different sound?
They're all different keys. They have, like this flute that I showed you, I only use it for ceremony because it's kind of really special that way. I don't know, they just have come to me. Sometimes I would trade, they've just kind of all come to live at my house. So, but that's kind of a joke amongst, native flute players is like, you can't have just one. So,
yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So anyhow, but I also, another instrument that has been used for healing are these udu drums that I make. And may I show you one of those?
Yes, please.
Now these are large. This is quite large, but it's actually, my puppy is, yes. But the resonance that happens when you play it, I'm holding it up against my chest, and people who had lung cancer would buy these because they loved how it felt up against their chest. And so instruments, the sound can make a difference, but the vibration can also make a tremendous difference. And even rattles. These are rattles made from gourds here in the desert. And one of the things that we have done is we will have somebody in the middle of a circle and everybody will rattle around them. And it's that shaking which will release some of those different trapped energies and things.
I remember getting, when I was like 5 or 6 being in Barbados, and I just all came back to me, and we had those shakers, and I used to love those shakers. They made me feel somehow that something was just right in the world. I remember that all just flashed back to me.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Yeah. There's something really amazing too about when a group of people comes together, and something like rattles are so wonderful because, if somebody says, oh, I don't play any instrument, hand them a rattle. Everybody can shake a rattle, but there's a wonderful sense of community that happens when we're all playing, when we're all coming together. It's that connection with one another as well as with the music. And we've kind of lost that in a lot of places. I know that there's drum circles, which are really good, but we've lost that in a lot of places now where people don't come together to play music. And that's socially, we need that.
Right. Yeah. No, it's actually here on the island where I'm from, one of the things that is still pretty prevalent is this idea where everybody pretty much everybody plays something.
Oh, it's wonderful.
So you still have these, when you walk through the little towns, there will be people just sitting on the corner, like, constantly playing it's like the community supports the artist and they're doing something else. So it's not just straight, but they are able to still go out and play and string or play the drums or.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. I know busking is something which I always wanted to busk. I wanted to go to Santa Monica and busk and just play in the streets. But, you have to get a permit and then you have to move every half hour. And it's like, really? It just loses the whole heart. I mean, and there are people who busk, but it's kind of like, I just wanted to be on the street and play music for people to enjoy. But our culture, our overculture kind of makes so many rules about things like that. I'm glad that you're able to still enjoy that where you are.
Yeah, something just happened to your sound. I don't know if anybody else hears it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's not that I couldn't hear you. It's just there was all kinds of vibrational static. I just thought that, I don't know if you caught Rosaria Langley because it was doing comedy now.
Oh.
But is going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So she's, in a sense, got a little space on the street that she's doing. But, you could probably connect with her and find out if you don't have to move in Edinburgh.
Oh, nice.
And then that could be a whole other thing. You could be busking in Edinburgh instead of in Santa Monica.
Yeah. Do you think they'd let me ship my didgeridoos by plane?
I don't know. You'd have to, that's the thing, right? You're still coming from the States.
Yeah.
Have you ever flown with them?
No. I've flown with a quiver full of flutes, but never the didges. So.
Yeah, they might think it's kind of, suspect.
I know.
But,
so.
Okay.
Just have to figure out ways.
Yeah, there'll be an answer if it's meant to be, or Santa Monica will change their rules.
Well, Vanessa and I will just get together and we'll just, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. When I was playing the didge, I could just see her belly dancing to that too, and drumming, and it's a wonderful tribal type of a expression.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. No, I can totally see it. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, Vanessa saying yes.
Yes.
How fun.
Well, I am very, very grateful that you came to share us. Now, how can people get a hold of you if they would like to, because you can help them learn how to experience music, even though you're in Santa Monica and I'm in Canada or they live in Portugal. How do they do that, Annie?
I would, when this comes up, I put in the comments, I will put my website and I'll put an email address. I teach people music from all over the world. I had a gentleman in Korea who I taught how to play a steel drum that I play. So it's very doable. I have I've had flute students in Canada, all over. So it's very doable in a Zoom room or in Skype, which I have both. And so there it is.
Well, I wish for everybody to have the joy in their life that Annie has. And so whether that's coming through a dance like Vanessa or in playing an instrument or in song or in comedy, just that essence, like look at her face, okay?
I just got more and more joyful as we were talking. I mean, this is such a, when we have our passion, and passion begets passion. And, it's just been a real pleasure to be here. But the music for me is it's a language of being able to be heard and understood.
Yes. Yeah, and you need to be in a certain presence, a certain state to understand it, right? Because it is an entirely different language.
It is.
It's a language of the heart.
Yes, absolutely. And no matter how bright we are or how brilliant we are, that language of the heart that comes through music is just that's the language where all the colors dwell, and the shimmerings and all the beauty lives. That's where it all comes forth from. So, Jackie, this is so wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm just honored to be your guest.
Well, thank you so much for coming, because obviously this global party could only happen with you and everybody else here. So it's been really a thrill to host it, and I look forward to many more encounters. So have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.